So now that we know where the Bulls are going to be picking with their first round pick, you would think, okay, there is a little more certainty around what the Bulls are going to do, who they are potentially going to select with the 4th and 15th pick based on who is projected to go in those ranges. But because the Bulls now have the highest pick value across all teams in the league, when you combine the value of both their picks, it opens up a host of opportunities and possibilities for the Bulls to move within the draft, meaning moving up or down, leveraging some of their assets to get the ideal draft positioning they would want. And already, not even just 2 days after the draft lottery, we're seeing so many discussions across Bulls Twitter on what some of these scenarios could look like, what would make the most sense for the Bulls, how can they capitalize on their current asset pool and position themselves even better in this current draft. What might that look like? Well, let's talk about it. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, what I've seen that's been trending most online is that there is some traction around the Washington Wizards entertaining offers about trading the number 1 pick. How real is that? I don't know. But given the fact that it's the number 1 pick in a draft that's projected to have a franchise-altering player in AJ Dybantsa, it certainly makes it intriguing for a team like the Bulls, who have been searching for that next big star or superstar to really bring this franchise back to relevance. And so the question I've been seeing most, some of you have DM'd me about it in fact, is should the Bulls trade up from the number 4 pick to try and get the number 1 selection? And what would it take to even move up to get that pick? Would packaging the 14th and 15th pick be enough to get it done? Would you need to include additional assets to that, like some of the 2nd round picks? Do you need to include Noah Senge? What would the Wizards even want among the current list of Bulls players to part with that number 1 pick? I honestly don't know. Who knows what the hell the Wizards are doing after they traded for Trae Young and Anthony Davis, while they also have these young players on their roster. But the way I look at it, to me, when I think about the Bulls trading up from the number 4 pick, whether it be trading to get up to number 3, 2, or 1, I just struggle to see the value in that. Like, sure, if one of those teams is willing to trade picks with you for a nominal amount that you would have to give up, fine. But I highly doubt any of those top 3 teams is going to be willing to part with their top pick without giving or getting a strong return in exchange for it. Like, how much is the gap, really, in talent between picks 1 through 4? Is it substantial enough that it makes sense to also trade your 15th pick with it? A pick where you can get another solid rotational player and have 2 young rookies, one that projects to be a star, whoever they select with the 4th pick. Like, how big is the talent gap between Dybantsa and Caleb Wilson, as an example? Because most believe Dybantsa is going to go number 1, and the majority believe it'll be Wilson who's going to be available at number 4, with a small chance of Boozer being there. Is Dybantsa really that much better of a prospect than Wilson that it warrants trading other assets to move up to number 1? Dybantsa is the better player as they currently stand, and I do believe he is the best prospect from this class with the higher upside, but I wouldn't say Dybantsa is in a tier of his own between all these other prospects. He's in the same tier as Peterson, Boozer, and Wilson. He's the best among those 4, but this isn't like a 2023 draft scenario where you have Wemby in a tier of his own, and there's a significant drop-off in talent between him and the rest. If I'm being honest, I think we're all kind of just overthinking this. The Bulls are going to get one of those top 4 prospects that are in a tier of their own in this draft. And the Bulls aren't even going to have to make the decision. The decision is going to be made for them. Whoever is left at number 4, that's who the Bulls are going to take, whether it's Boozer, Wilson, or Peterson. I don't see a world where Dybantsa drops off to number 4 unless he's just, interviews horribly with teams. So the Bulls are going to get one of those 4 guys, all great prospects, all with high upside, all impact players. To me, where I think it makes more sense if you're looking to trade up is with the 15th pick. And I asked you guys this in the community tab. Most of you actually said neither, keep both picks, which I'm actually a big proponent of. I honestly think it makes the most sense given this class is so deep and you can still get a great player at number 15 as well as number 38, I might add. But if I had to choose between the 2, it makes way more sense to try and move up from 15 than moving up from number 4. And the reason for that is this: the talent level from, say, picks 8 through 11 is pretty substantial than what you would otherwise get at 15. Now, you never know how things are going to shake out, right? Players fall all the time in the draft, much further than you expect. I mean, there was a lot of talk about the Bulls looking to trade up from the 11th pick in 2024 to get Modus, who was projected to go in the 5 to 7 range at that time, and he ended up falling to them anyway without having to give up anything. But the way I look at it is this: say the Bulls get Wilson at number 4. You've now added another front court player. He would project to be your starting 4. You would slide Modest over to the 3. I do have some slight concerns around the overall strength and physicality of those two together, as well as the fact that it presents some spacing issues, but we'll table that for now. But if you get Wilson, you assume Josh Giddey is staying around as the starting point guard, even though there have been some rumblings about Giddey's future with this team, and I plan on talking about that in my next video as the topic has been heating up. But with Giddey, Modest, Wilson as your 3 starters, what you're really in need of at that point is a starting center and shooting guard. And there are tons of guards that are projected to go in that 6 to 10 range, 6 to 11 range in the draft. Keaton Wagler, Acuff, Phylon Jr., Mike Brown Jr., Braden Burries, Kingston Flemings. Now, sure, maybe one of them is there at number 15, and yes, I also recognize that not all of them are 2 guards, some of them are point guards, but maybe one of them is there when you're on the clock at 15. But if you trade up to, say, number 10 with the Bucks, or number 11 with the Warriors, it's more of a certainty that you can get one of those guys, one of these quality guards to add to your backcourt for the future. Now, yes, the Bulls could just look to re-sign one of Simons or Sexton, and they can effectively be the temporary shooting guards for this young core, while you opt to draft, say, a big, which there are plenty of bigs slated to go in that 15 range. But I just have a hard time seeing Bryson Graham looking to use cap space to re-sign one of Simons or Sexton when they're likely going to want too much money for players that aren't going to be part of this team's long-term future. In my opinion, you're more likely to be successful at landing a big via free agency as your starting center, and going with adding a higher upside guard on the roster via the draft is going to make more sense. Guys like Walker Kessler, if they can pry him away and offer more than the Jazz are comfortable matching. Isaiah Hartenstein, don't forget about him. The Thunder have a team option in the final year of his deal, and they may look for a more cost-effective option at the 5. That could be a target for the Bulls, as other teams aren't going to be able to offer him big money. And hey man, I'm not even ruling out Jalen Duren at this point. I would have said at the end of the season, the regular season, there is no way Jalen Duren is even going to be in play as a target in restricted free agency. The Pistons are going to keep him at all costs. But with the way he's been struggling in the playoffs, I don't know. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion anymore. I do think the Pistons will try to re-sign him still, but if they're not willing to give him the max and the Bulls say, you know what, this is an all-NBA center that just had a breakout season. We're not going to let a bad postseason from a 22-year-old player prevent us from stealing this guy away from the Pistons. Let's give him the max and make Detroit squirm. Again, I don't like the spacing if we're talking about adding Wilson in the front court with Jalen Duren, but one step at a time. Get the best players and figure it out afterwards. But in any event, going back to the guards here and the Bulls trading up from 15, I think a lot of this depends on how much can the Bulls realistically trade up with that pick, and what are the additional assets they would have to relinquish to do so. And you also have to look at these teams ahead of them and what they would want, right? Like, I look at a team like the Mavs, who are sitting 9th. Would they opt to accumulate more future assets in their current rebuild and trade back to move to 15 if it meant the Bulls gave them a future first, protected future first, of course? Or maybe all those second round picks that AK acquired? I don't know. How about the Hawks at number 8? I mean, this is an already established playoff team. They might not even have a spot in the rotation for their incoming rookie. They've already pushed Risha Shea out of the rotation as their former number 1 overall pick. Would Graham try and swindle his former team to move up to 8 if it means they get the 15th pick, the 38th pick, and say maybe Trey Jones? The Hawks could use a backup point guard that is a winning, high IQ player for the playoffs. Or what about the Milwaukee Bucks? What are they going to do? On one hand, they say they're completely open for business on trading Giannis, but then they also might have one extra push to try and keep him, try to persuade him to stay in Milwaukee. Would they look to trade out of that lottery pick because of it? The Warriors, same thing. They're interested in winning now and not looking to bring in a project player while they're in the final years of the Steph Curry era. The Thunder, they don't need another lottery pick. They could look to trade back as well. And so if I'm the Bulls, if they were to move up a few spots from 15, and now you're talking about adding a guy like Flemings or Wagler, even though I doubt he falls that far, or Mikal Brown Jr., who is an absolute bucket getter. Imagine getting one of those top prospects in addition to someone like Wilson or Boozer. Now, if there was one big that I would look to trade up for from 15, because it's looking more and more unlikely that he's just not going to be there at 15, but that's Adey Mara. We've talked about him before, but 7'3" foot big man, barefoot, 7'3" barefoot, by the way, a 7'6" wingspan. He recorded a 9'9" standing reach at the combine, which is the second highest recorded standing reach, only behind Tacko Fall for those who have participated in the draft combine. He is a massive, massive individual, but has a good feel for the game as an underrated passer, pretty mobile given his size and his great footwork and finishing around the basket. Excellent shot blocker with great timing and swatting away attempts, which you would expect. He should be a decent shot blocker given his size. Yes, he's not the most athletic. Yes, he doesn't shoot threes, so it impacts your spacing, but he has the size, length, and physicality down low that the Bulls need. He's not going to be a star, but he can be your starting center for the future, and even has the ability to start being an impact player now, given he's a little older for a rookie, already 21 years old. Now, all of this being said, I don't think it's worth it if the Bulls have to give up too much moving up from 15. Like, if we're talking unprotected future first round picks they would have to trade, especially with the draft lottery reform, or say they have to part with Modest Bucelis, hell, even Esenge in addition to draft capital, it's just not worth it. At that rate, stay where you're at, see who falls to you, and draft the best player available when you're on the clock. Now, of course, there are scenarios where the Bulls could look to trade back in the draft, either trading down from number 4, unlikely, although I'm sure they get a lot for that pick given the top 4 prospects in this draft, or trading down from 15 for more future assets. I'll save that for another video where we talk about what trading down in this draft could look like, but in the meantime, I would love to hear what you guys think. What would you like to see the Bulls do when it comes to trading up in the draft with their picks, or just staying where they are and seeing where the cards fall? So let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.